last but not least, Brandie out of the from backstage. You there, Brandie? There you are. So Brandie is from Friesens Corporation, and that is North America's premier book yearbook and packaging manufacturer, providing publishers, self-publishers, institutions, businesses, and schools with quality in-house services at their 250,000 square feet state-of-the-art production facility in Altona, Canada. But that is just across the US border from North Dakota, 7 miles, right, Brandie? Just 7 miles. So Friesens has been around for 114 years in the business of printing and binding your stories, your ideas, your images, and your dreams into some of the finest books in North America. Friesens has also been employee owned in some form since the 1950s. You know, I love that, Brandie. Brandie is a marketing and sales executive who started her career organizing, cataloging, and maintaining digital assets. I'm not sure if any of you have ever been involved in digital asset management, but I have, and trust me when I tell you that patience, fortitude, and customer service with a smile, no matter what, are born in digital asset management. She has had roles as a content creator, a social media manager. She sold advertising. She created in-store experiences. And 6.5 years ago, she moved into sales and hasn't looked back. Her role at Friesens may be titled a sales executive, but Brandie is truly a customer relationship manager, a creative consultant, and a business consultant for her clients. And she is about to show us all that a book can be more than what we think it is. Brandie, thank you so much for joining us, and take it away.
Well, thanks so much, Deborah. I'm Brandie Herrell, and as Deborah gave me that brilliant, resounding introduction, I work for Friesens Corporation. I manage all of the accounts in the Southeast United States. We've been a proud member of Project Peacock this year. I have followed Deborah and admired her work and her platforms for many years now. So I was really honored to be asked to speak here tonight. I get to kind of be your idea person. I got to compile a bunch of images of projects for you where books have been used in a way that's not a novel. That's not your normal first thought when you think of publishing. For those of you that are unfamiliar with Friesens, I think Deborah gave us a great description there. We manufacture books, history books, yearbooks, packaging, slipcases, all in southern Manitoba, Canada. We're 7 miles from the border. We're employee owned 100%. Before my time at Friesens, I worked for about 5 years in commercial printing, primarily focused on catalogs. And in the dark ages before that, I did all of the things that Deborah described to you, advertising and marketing kind of across the board. So I worked in a very print adjacent fields before I fell in love with actually being an account representative. So when you think of publishing, when you think of a book printer like Friesens or like our other, book printing counterparts, you're probably thinking primarily what you see in front of you. I've got a stack of perfect bound paperback books from one of our esteemed clients, Penguin Random House. Traditional hardcover books, or maybe the slip cases that are traditionally made to house limited editions or collector's editions of those kind of books. And this is what we do, and this is what we do well. But I want to open your mind up that all book printers, not just Friesens, are much more than these products. I came into Friesens a year ago from a commercial printing background, and I immediately saw more capabilities than book printing. Even from my interview stage, my wheels were kind of turning as to the possibilities, especially coming from the world of catalogs, because a soft cover book is everything that a catalog is. It's constructed in the same way with the covers and the signatures. From a production standpoint, a paperback book is the same as a catalog, a magazine, a manual, a corporate booklet, instructions, calendars. These things are all manufactured in the same way, regardless of their content. So let that first open your mind to the possibilities of what you can be doing at a book printer. Most anything that a commercial printer can do, you can do with a book printing facility. But once I had made that connection and I started to see the kind of work that they were actually doing at Friesens, I came to an even bigger realization. And that's not only did a book printer have commercial capabilities, but we had the ability to elevate brands and ideas to heights beyond normal marketing collateral. The big players in so many industries have been utilizing this kind of capability long before I came along. So just when I thought that I was stepping into a 114-year-old organization with these brand new ideas, I saw that their capabilities, their specialties were being used in even more creative ways than just using that similar equipment for more commercial kind of projects. A book doesn't have to be a book in the sense that it's not just a novel or a textbook or a yearbook. A book is seen today, especially in a digital age, especially when we're inundated with social media, with websites, print in general, but books even more so are seen as legitimate, upscale, refined, high-end. So you can take that capability and make it a reflection or an extension of your brand or your message. So I'm excited to show you a few instances that I know of where this idea has been fabulously utilized. And more than that, I'm excited to see where the people attending today can take these ideas even further. And once you see the ways that I know that it was utilized, that you can take the work of your current clients, your prospects, and use these book printing capabilities and expand and show me something new. Full disclosure, moving forward here, some of these projects we did have the honor of printing at Friesens, and some of them were done elsewhere, but they're just projects that I'm familiar with. So I'm going to go and shut this blind really quick.
Yay.
Yeah, the sun started to kind of flood in on me there.
That's okay. It was a little bit of a creepy effect though.
I know, right? I think that's going to make it a little better. I apologize there.
It looks great. Thank you so much.
Yes, as the sun started to set, but there we go. It's not blinding me any longer. So all of the things that you see in front of you come from this really dynamic, creative branding, marketing, advertising agency in Los Angeles called Dynamic Dinosaur. And there's a gentleman there who kind of runs the show. His name is David Mendelson, and he's been a friend of mine for many years because before his time at Dynamic Dinosaur, Um, he was the creative director for Fender Guitars, and in my commercial printing life, I did the majority of their printing. He was a direct client of mine, and I know that he was with Billabong and Quicksilver prior to that. And they have the same kind of huge names for their clients. Nike, DC, they're still doing Fender, they're still doing Billabong. They utilize actual books in the branding and marketing for their clients fairly often. So this black book here that you see and the red one in front of you are what they call brand books. This is for Uncommon Thread. This is for Mitchell and Ness. And both of these are pretty similar. They're square back, square spine, board and spine, hardcover books. Both of them are covered in cloth, roughly 240 pages. I know they utilize some really cool spot UV effects throughout on the Uncommon Thread on all of the images. And aside from how Deborah mentioned earlier that these can be kind of collectible pieces, they're sent out to buyers. And it's just such an elevated presentation for someone to choose these brands for their stores and to buy into the lines than the traditional catalogs that are received by buyers. And an even more inspiring project that I've seen them do is encompassed in these three images here. And this is a 20th anniversary book that was created for DC. And we have a lot of things that they've done to make that project special. We have the Supreme red Pantone. We have a silver Pantone that exhibits through many parts of the book. They also have spot UV on different images. There's spot UV on the cover. There's a deboss on the cover. But I think the real star of the show here is this very custom envelope, slip case type craft material packaging that they put this book into. So this one, a lot of places, not only did it go to the same buyers that I talked about for the other books, but these are used at trade shows, industry events, gifted to investors. These type of books are displayed in the lobbies and the boardrooms of this company. And in the case of this 20th anniversary book, was also sold as just a collectible piece. So they're a spot that I know of in the creative world that's utilizing this kind of printing to really elevate the brands of their clients. But it's not a new thing. Luxury brands have been employing the use of books in their marketing strategy for decades. There are books for Prada, Yves Saint Laurent, Chanel, Gucci, Louis Vuitton, and these books are used to illustrate different things. Some of them are sheer photography books that are photographs of their catwalks and their different fashion shows. Some of them show the most iconic fashion of those brands throughout the decades. Some of them tell the story of the brand. I had a distribution partner that I work with pretty closely in Arkansas, and I'm sure we all know they were chosen because that's the epicenter of fashion. But they helped roll out the YSL book. It was sent to thousands of supporters that had, bought a pre-sale copy of this book. And there's so much that swirls around these kind of projects that are other printing projects. Me and Deborah were talking about the other day. In the case of that YSL book, they they spared no expense to make some really custom packaging that when it, had this beautiful unboxing experience when it arrived at the customers. Also, in the case of the DC book, that has a really beautiful unboxing experience. And I think that we've all seen on YouTube and on TikTok how that's a really great marketing avenue for so many brands right now, sending these kind of products out to creators, and you have this fabulous unboxing video that's giving you this essentially free platform of their followers and marketing and advertising of your piece. When I was still in commercial printing, I had the privilege of being a print vendor for a lot of upscale lighting and furniture brands, and they employ books in their marketing strategy in the same way that fashion does. In the case of this type of product, they aren't just making these books for internal reasons or to display them in their showrooms at different World Trade Centers, although those are, part of the picture. Primarily in these cases, just as we talked about them being sent out to buyers as an elevated way to market your lines into stores, the books that are created for furniture and lighting go a lot to interior decorators, so that they are inspired to use these brands in their designs. They also go to those same kind of buyers to get them in different furniture and lighting stores. It's not as cyclical as a catalog is. It lives on the coffee tables of these kind of places for years as a extension of your brand. It's a way to showcase the mood and feel and look and ideology. You can make these books almost a combination of magazine and catalog, showing things that you'd like to showcase about manufacturing of a product, sustainability. It just gives you such an elevated platform and a lengthened message to your piece. Another place that I've seen a lot of success in utilizing book printing by people that you normally wouldn't think of as going out and printing books is in the magazine industry. And I've got some images here that are, two of your biggest players in the game and very trusted names in their fields. And that's Better Homes and Gardens and Vogue. And what they've done here is they've transitioned that loyal readership into customers for other products. Once you are trusting your information for your home decor, your gardening, your parenting, your cooking to Better Homes and Gardens, they've created these adjacent book products that they've been selling for decades and decades. Better Homes and Gardens started in the 1920s, and by 1930s, they were publishing books. And I see where Vogue has followed suit as well. They have cocktail books, decor books. If you're living the Vogue life right, then these are elements to your life now. The next thing that I have to look at is where the travel industry is utilizing books. So me and Deborah had some conversations about city guides, and that's what you'll see here. And we were talking about how when you think of a book, you don't really think of maps being a part of a book. But instead of your standard magazine like city guides, the Scout Guide, now these are not hardcover books, but these are more upscale, high-end, softcover travel booklets. So the Scout Guide is printing 1.2 million of these a year for 60 different markets. And this is an entirely franchised operation. Each city, each market is owned by a franchisee. Each of them utilize a different color Pantone for their front cover. They have these intricate, beautiful gold stamps on them. And the entirety of each market's issue, each city's issue, is comprised of advertising essentially. They are full page or double page spreads of everything that is unique or you don't want to miss when going to that city. And this is advertising that's bought and utilized by dining hotspots, after hours, nightclubs, but also interior decorators, architects, um, anyone that, is interested in buying or using services in their demographic in that city. I've also got several things here to show from Patagonia. And Patagonia has been a longtime client of Friesens. They started off in, I don't know. They started off decades ago as a rope company, and they transitioned into an apparel brand, and they transitioned from there into activism. Patagonia is primarily an apparel brand for skiing, surfing, extreme outdoor adventures. So they started to advocate for the people and the places that made those kind of outdoor adventures possible. And they found that they were a trusted source for publishing of nonfiction in that arena. And so they publish many books a year that are about fishing, surfing, the lifestyle of various athletes, the stories of these people and places, and are very successful with it. It's sold right along with the outdoor apparel that they're famous for right on their website. We also have a travel brand here, Lonely Planet, that ventures beyond what you think of, in a travel company. They do a lot of blogging and websites and are a trusted source for, inspiration and ideas for places to go. So we expect the travel guides and we expect the maps, but they have so many other adjacent products that they're using in the world of printing: magazines, phrase guides for the languages when you go there, food and wine guides for these areas and regions, calendars of these places, stationery, children's books about these places. So they've branched into many facets that they use the book printing industry for to expand their platform and brand. And the last piece I haven't talked about here is this Miami tourism book. So when I was in digital asset management, I worked for an advertising agency in Miami, and we did a very similar piece for the tourism board of St. Lucia. And this piece was done for the tourism board of Miami. And not only is it sold to residents, not only is it a sheer collectible kind of piece, but they use this to distribute to travel agents, large conference leaders, just as those major fashion brands or those major furniture and lighting brands that I was talking about sent them out to buyers. It's a elevated calling card. It's the ultimate brochure for selling your product, your service, your place. So in this slide, I just want to switch gears from how books can be used by advertisers or marketing agencies or retail brands in new ways. And I think that's really fun and interesting. But here I started to think about how we can use them for even more original and dynamic ideas. So let's look at unique packaging capabilities. Many book printers, including Friesens, make custom slip cases and book boxes. And as I mentioned earlier, those are typically used for collectors and limited editions. And these 6 pictures all showcase projects that we've been proud to bring to life. And I'm just going to kind of go through the elements of each of those projects, and you can kind of start to let your wheels turn as to other places that you could take this sort of thing. So number 1 here, you have an upright type of clamshell box. This has a really unique metal inlay. Here you have a more traditional style clamshell box. Has this nice ribbon marker, has these foam inserts where you can fit the book down in there. Foil stamping on the front. These are sets of books that we did for Price HVAC, and they are all manuals and instruction books, hardcover books fitted into a slipcase as a set that go out to people who sell their HVAC products and who service them. So just a really elevated manual set instead of your standard kind of corporate spiral bound book. Down here in the bottom left, this is a photography project. Has this same kind of foam lining form that goes around the edging and your little ribbon to pull it out. Photography is a really interesting place in book printing, and I know that Martin had a project that he was showing from a photographer. I actually have a really cool project that's going on right now that's a little out of the norm for photography, in that we're making him several hundred traditionally bound hardcover books. And this was all fundraised through a Kickstarter campaign. Photography is a great place, and children's book printing, for you to get support from a community in order to publish a book. But we're making them 50 that are just the sewn book blocks that Martin had showed you. And he's going to make these custom covers for them, for people who had larger donations to his Kickstarter project. So, that's a very cool way to think about, printing or publishing a book. Maybe you don't have the same cover on all of those books. In this case, maybe you have no cover on them. Our 5th one here, this is a travel and tourism kind of book, like we talked about on the previous slide. Very custom box, belly band that goes around the book. I can only assume that it's, made for the same purposes as, the others, and is helping them advance the tourism in that place. And then last, this is something that we had the honor of making for the Broadway show of The Lion King. And so it was an anniversary edition. I think it was 20 years of The Lion King on Broadway. And it showcases kind of the history of the show and a lot of photography of the show throughout the years in this custom printed book box. But it's a collectible. It's something that you can take away, that you can buy at their gift shop after the show to, kind of commemorate your attendance, or order online if you've been a fan for a long time. So like I said, when I see these projects, my wheels kind of start turning a little bit of where can we take that a little further in advertising and marketing in a little more of a commercial sense. And what you see here is where the kind of packaging that most book companies can produce and book projects meet up. I actually bought one of these, of this top image, for my son for Easter recently. And these aren't exactly the kind of boxes that we can make, but like I said, there's a lot of print that surrounds the printing, publishing of these kind of books altogether. We talked about custom packaging. If they're sent out to a list of customers, maybe they're letters that go along with those books. Maybe they're thank you postcards for being part of a Kickstarter. Maybe it's a large book launch for someone like John Grisham or James Patterson. And then there's a great deal of POP materials that go to the bookstores. It's just a lot of different facets that kind of work in conjunction with the book printing. But I've seen this, like they've done with the Peter Rabbit here, utilized a lot with children's books. And so you have a really cute box, you have the actual book that you've printed, and then a plush doll character or maybe a toy of some type that runs along adjacent to that book. In your second image here, we have a telescopic box where the lid just comes entirely off. And it has a little book inside. You have a little cocktail guide there. And then their actual products. I assume it's a drink mix. It's a little highball glass. Third here, this one you can't see the top of so well, but it's a clamshell box as well. And this is a self-care kit. Comes with a journal inside, some soap, a body wash. It's an entire packaging experience, which lends back to the unboxing experience that everybody's after these days. Fourth, you have something that you'd expect a little more. We're using those same kind of foam inserts. And what I kind of wanted to say when I was looking at it on the other side is we're using those to pat around the edge of the book and make sure everything fits snugly in the box. But what you can be doing is using it as a form for a product. In this case, it's just an ink pen. So it seems pretty run of the mill, but they can be manufactured into other shapes, to the exact shape of your product. And this one has a little journal that comes along with it. So it's a really cute gift set. This set was actually made by a huge publisher. It's from Simon & Schuster. And they have a little stationery there and a little notebook. I would think that's probably like a little wax seal or something that you use with it, but it's a cute set, Also a little telescoping box. And our good friends, Harry Potter, we've been very lucky to get to print many, many Harry Potter books over the year. And this is a clamshell type box made of all craft materials. You have a little custom journal inside. It's got a little belly band around it. Comes with some adjacent Harry Potter type products. So I stumbled through some of that a little bit. I get a little nervous when I have to be at any of these kind of events, or I have the privilege of being asked to be. So I apologize for that, but I did have a lot of information in there as far as, high-end lighting, furniture, fashion, travel industry, magazine industry, how you can take and elevate a book that you want to print with this kind of custom packaging, or you can use that kind of custom packaging to just house your products, or a product and a book. There's just a lot of different kind of things that you can do. And as Martin talked about, there's a lot of different kinds of binding that's available to you at a book printer that they're not at your average commercial printer. Um, Flexi Bind, he mentioned, Smyth Zone, Perfect Bound, that's pretty run of the mill. Concealed wire O, hardcover spirals, lay fat bindings. And then there are the materials that it makes available to you, because there are different things to cover a book than you can use in commercial printing. There are cloths, leathers, vegan leathers. Um, Also, Martin touched a little bit on all the different pieces of a book and showed you how to put one together. So that was something that I really loved, and I was amazed at when I got into book printing, was that there's so many more elements of a book that you can customize. There are headbands and tail bands. There are the end sheets to a book. And then you retain so much. You have the same AQ options. You have the same varnish, lamination kind of options that you're already used to. So it's just kind of a space, I think, to expand upon big ideas for your clients, for your brand. And I'll be in my booth when we get done with this. And I really appreciate Deborah asking me to be a part of this today. I'm always available for questions or samples, anything that I can help you all out with. But before I jump off here, I have about 10 books that I had in my office. And I'm just going to show you quickly, that was kind of canned, what I had available for you on the slides. That were things that I already knew of or knew that we had created in the past. But this is becoming so common in the world of book printing and publishing. And like our other speakers talked about, the face of publishing is changing. So I had a lot of live examples here that I can show you, just in my samples, where we've utilized some of these into unique book printing projects. So Deborah had said that she was so impressed that my travel books had a map in them. It's not something that she usually, thinks of when she thinks of book. This A has a unique kind of binding to it because it's soft cover, but it's wire O inside. So this soft cover covers up your wire O. But these ones are paddling routes in Canada. And so it has all kinds of maps throughout of where you can kind of go canoe and kayak and depths and stuff for different places. So I thought that one was kind of neat. That's different for book. Other books are books that you can have for experiential places. So I work a lot with these two museums. Our red book has a 3-piece case, traditional hardcover book. This was made for the Georgia Museum of Art. And this one for the North Carolina Museum of Art. Like I told you, I manage the Southeast accounts. This one's soft cover. It has a French flap to it here. Not a French flap, just a flap, I guess. You can see the back side of the embossing there that was done for the letters. But in these cases, these being art museums, these were used for you to buy at the gift shop to kind of keep your experience of coming to the museum going, or your love for the art that you saw there to kind of take a piece of it home with you. And I think that can be done with any kind of experiential place if you want to make a kind of collector's item that comes with the people afterward. Martin spoke about flexi binding, and I'll kind of elaborate on what he said about it. And the way that I see a flexi bind book, and we think of it in a production sense, is that you can take anything that you can do to a hardcover. You can take cloth, you can take leather, and it's just wrapping over a cardstock, and then it gets the same kind of end sheets that a hardcover book does. I do printing for Dayspring, which is kind of the Christian journaling division for Hallmark. And so they do a lot of this. but I have a project coming up where it's a little more unique how the journal comes about. You may or may not be familiar with a female Christian preacher named Joyce Myers. She's written a lot of books. And so she's coming out with her own journaling products, and we're going to use this kind of binding to do those. So it's something to sell adjacent to the book itself, because if you're reading the book and you're doing the work, you can kind of journal through this product, and it helps you to work through the steps per se that she's laid out. And you can use all of those same kind of effects that we talked about. You can't tell here, but the insides of each of these little flowers is embossed, so it has a little tactile feel. It's got a nice foil stamp on it, and you can print your end sheets, another customizable kind of element of a book. Here's another journal, same way, same kind of product where you work through it. This one's 90 Days to Victory. But this comes from a source that you don't think of that's publishing books. And this is a Instagram influencer. And so she's selling this product to her followers. And it's got a nice, I don't know if we can flip open to it. It's got a nice ribbon marker, and you kind of work through your little journal. Me and Deborah have spoke before about how we think that print for the Instagram influencers, the creators, the YouTubers is a very interesting spot to get into. So here's something I did recently where I was able to kind of get into that place. Another Instagram influencer, she's the daughter of Phil Robertson, the Duck Dynasty star, and she's a Christian blogger, influencer. And so this book tells a little bit of the story of her life, but it also has these fillable prompts for different kind of reflection about marriage and the topics that she's talking about in the book. Another interesting thing going on in books are legacy projects. And I spoke a little bit about some of the fashion books that they tell the story of their brand. And we know how successful that's been. Movies have been made. Recently, Lady Gaga starred in The House of Gucci. There was The Devil Wears Prada. This is not going to be a movie, but it was a really nicely done book. It's a little deboss in it. It's got some spot UV. You probably can't see. But I recently completed about 60,000 of these for BB&T Bank, founded and ran by a gentleman named Mr. Truist, and he's transitioning out of the company, and they're going to be under new management. So they've used this opportunity to send this to all 55,000 of their employees, and it tells the story of the company, the story of Mr. Truist, the person who's coming about to be in charge of the company moving forward, and then kind of ends with what is the new company's mission over the next 5 years. So interesting use of a book. We did one of our own. We got on the legacy book trend. We've made our own history of Friesens that we're distributing out to our clients. So very cool. I learned a lot about the company from that. They have 114 years of stuff to talk about. We all know that in a couple of days that it's unfortunately the anniversary of 9/11. And this is a children's book that commemorates 9/11 through the tale of a flag that was used at Ground Zero, 30,000 stitches. I did this for Hachette Book Group here in Nashville. And so it's a children's book that addresses the event and tells this hopeful tale of the people who, helped in the aftermath, and how this flag from Ground Zero has traveled all around the country. And I thought about how this could be used for so many monumental events. If you wanted to educate children or thinking about children's publishing, or historical sites, or those experiential kind of places, just a way to educate a younger audience. I had a Vineyard, again, unique binding. This one is also concealed wire-o, but in a hardcover. And so this vineyard's made their own cookbook of great dishes that you can cook to go along with their wines. And last but not least, so did the Melting Pot, huge national chain. Some of those nicer upscale kind of restaurants that you go to, or large chains that have, the money to do so, are making their menus into hardcover books. Here, the Melting Pot made a cookbook, nice ribbon marker, to kind of go along with their brand, how you could fondue at home. But the most genius part that I really liked about this book that we did is in the back, got little pages of perforated coupons for the restaurant. So encourages you to go back in. I think that's all the ones that I could think of that were really, beyond the novel here that are in my office, but gives you lots of ideas.
You gave everybody so many ideas. You have no idea. Everybody loved that presentation so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. You've inspired everybody. You've inspired me. I had no idea. It's so interesting because Morton touched upon that, sort of evergreen business model for publishing on Amazon, but then you brought it actually into the real world. And I never realized how much, I always thought it was more like, okay, there's a book and you market the book and you market the author, but no. Some of these things are like movements. And with that, I just love the examples of there's the book, but then there's the workbook, and then there's the supplement, and then there's all this other. It was just incredible. There was not exactly questions. There were more comments, and you can see in your, actually, no, sorry. There is one real question, and then I have a question, but I'll ask you the real question first. This is from Patrick Johnson. He actually is a print producer, and he is also on the board of the Advertising Production Club of New York. And he wants to know, is there a cheat sheet for minimum page count for unique book binding options?
Well, your smallest, not a particular cheat sheet. Friesens offers their own cheat sheet. We have a thing that's called Spec Check that you can find on our website. And if you went and you downloaded this PDF, I can't imagine that it's wildly different at any book printer that you'd want to speak to. But essentially, you have to think of a children's book. Lots of children's books are 24, 28, 32 kind of pages. So you can go really low with the page count and still have a hardcover book.
Okay, thank you so much for answering that. We had a question, sort of a comment question about you didn't show any examples with augmented reality or QR codes. Are you noticing any sort of patterns with that? And before you answer, I just want to say that that's a testy subject with the publishing industry. A lot of people don't realize that, especially when it comes to magazines. I've spoken to some magazine publishers, and giving them a million ideas to use, QR code, a digital bridge, and they're like, no, we don't want them off the magazine. We want them to have the relationship with the magazine. The minute they go online, something will, grab their attention, ding, ping,
Right.
ring, or something like that. But interesting. So I was just wondering if any of that comes into your area. And then I think that there's another question after that. Go ahead.
You actually just remind me that I missed a great opportunity in books that have made publishing unique here. I had a children's book, and all of my kids have one, that used AR in a really effective way that didn't really deter you from the book. And I really love this idea. You get the children's book, right? And they've built a little application that you get. You open up the app. When you point it at the book, and me and my son sit and read this and do it often, the character of the book, the elements that you see on the page of the book come to life on your screen, on your tablet, on your phone, and she reads the character in the book and tells the story out loud to you. This is called The Bravest Warrior. And I actually got the privilege of printing it, and we got to distribute it to every single foster child in the state of Georgia. Maybe one of my proudest moments. Can't believe that I didn't think of it for this missed opportunity. But you have to have the book for that particular AR to work. It only works when you're facing at the book. As you turn each page, the app then interacts differently and reads you that particular page. You can even touch moments in the app that make the worry monster disappear on your screen that's in the, printed illustrations. So maybe, and it's how it's done. I mean, I understand people's fear, but everybody thought that the book was disappearing when the Kindle came along. And we proved that that's not the desired experience for books, just by having that capability. I think that any bridge to digital is wise as long as you can make both products viable and they have their own space and their own reasoning, they're both valuable in their own sense. Then I think it's really smart. Just like I think, reaching out to YouTubers or Instagrammers is smart. Just like I think having a stellar unboxing experience, because it's just where we are. It's just where we are as people in a digital age now.
I could not agree with you more. Like I said, everybody is just really, really happy that you shared all those ideas. Patrick, go visit Brandie in her booth and she'll give you a link to that guide. There was a question that David Cause is asking, but I'm not sure I understand it, about proofing. So David, why don't you pop into the Friesens booth as well? And you could ask Brandie what that question is. Thank you so much. Just the whole thing was really, really inspiring. And, as I said, people loved it. Thank you so much. If you could just turn off your video, I'm just going to wrap up the Project Peacock. Everybody, thank you. Thank you again,
so
Brandie.
much for inviting me.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, everybody, for attending. Really, really appreciate it. Please, if you go visit the partners in the booth, and make sure you log out of the platform before you leave. A couple of people have been honestly in the platform for like 3 weeks, which is kind of lovely, but you're not really there. So if you could just log out. And that's really it. Everybody, there's open networking on the platform. It's open 24/7. Please come back. We have 2 upcoming events. You can mark them on the calendar right now just by clicking on them in the side window. And that's really it. We're going to wrap it up, and Peacock long and prosper, everybody. Thank you so much.